ladies and gentlemen, my name is Keenan, and yes, welcome to another ghouly episode of a new survival horror, and today I'm covering a game that I would usually glance at once and be like, I don't like pixel art games. But however, this title actually piqued my interest, I must admit. So much so that I got in contact with the developer and managed to play an early alpha demo, that game being, of course, Conscript. Now, like I said before, I usually don't like playing games with this certain visual style, but the setting and environments definitely drew me further in. One thing I need to say before we jump into the video is that this game does what most modern survival horror games fail to do, and that is take older survival horror elements from games such as Resident Evil, Silent Hill, but still manage to maintain and create its own identity and not have to rely on the nostalgia of fans for those games. I'll explore that later in a bit, but let's delay no longer and dive right into Conscript, starting with the story. Conscript is set in 1916 during the First World War, also known as the Great War. You play as... but he doesn't really have a name yet, so I'm going to call him Ted. Ted is a private fighting for the French army in the trenches alongside his brother Floyd, or at least he was until Floyd was wounded and sent to a place called the Fort, which is a location both sides have been fighting for control over for quite some time. The game starts with Ted writing to his mother back home about his life in the trenches, as well as letting her know that Floyd and himself are still alive. Before he could finish writing his letter, Ted is interrupted by the vibrations and sounds of gunfire and explosions. He's ordered by his captain to go resupply, but when he returns he finds that the trenches are covered in gas and falls unconscious. Later he awakes to find that the trenches are silent with nothing but monsters roaming about, and the world is transformed into a horrific nightmare. I'm guessing the Germans released this new deadly gas that transforms men into monsters, although it doesn't appear to make them into the usual zombies we would expect to find in games like this, but into something else. I'm not quite sure what that something else is, but you know, before we get into that, let's take a look at the gameplay. Conscript is a top-down survival horror game very much inspired by the classics. Actually, even the main Twitter account mentioned Resident Evil and Silent Hill in the description. Pretty sure that's most survival horror games nowadays, but that's fine. Initially, when looking at it, you wouldn't think of it being so similar to a classic survival horror game because of its pixel arty style and perspective, but it really is. So the game has you exploring the trenches, picking up helpful items along the way and solving puzzles. Backtracking is something you'll be doing a lot since you'll be running back and forth from one of the game's save rooms to dump items into the item box. That's right, this game has its very own soothing save rooms with its very own item box. In these rooms you can save your game's progress using matches to light a lantern. So yeah, gather up your matches because you're going to be saving. That's right, you're going to be storing, and you're going to be chilling in the room because it's very soothing, I must admit, it's very relaxing, you can tell. Once you enter, you're like, this is the save room. Now trust me when I say you'll be going back and forth to this room initially, because once you start unlocking doors and exploring the environments, you'll be picking up a good deal of items ranging from med packs, equipment, ammo, and weapons. So yeah, inventory management is key to surviving in the trenches. Initially you only start out with 4 slots, which doesn't seem like much, and trust me, it isn't. But you do find pouches that unlock more slots in your inventory as you progress through Conscript. Although ammo might be tight, you can still make your own if you happen across the right ingredients. Kinda like in Resident Evil 7 and the Resident Evil 2 remake, players will have to gather things like lead powder, and I think if you combine it with chemical fluid you can create ammo. I'm pretty sure it's chemical fluid. Now the combat again is very inspired by the older games in the genre, with limited ammo making you very considerate on when to use it, and it even has like restrictive aiming, meaning that you can run and gun but you have to stand on the spot while taking a shot. Melian in the game just looks like a bitch slapping contest, to be honest. I mean, don't get me wrong, what I mean by slapping contest is every time you deal damage to an enemy, the enemy deals that damage right back at you, so it's not something that you should be encouraged to do all the time. Enemies in the game are comprised of crazed, monstrous soldiers that run at you with batons. For me, at least in the demo I tried just there, they seem quite easy to deal with. Usually when you encounter them, there's only like one at a time that runs at you, and they can be taken down with like a couple of bullets. I would say a good way to improve this is by adding more in tight areas. The game is already tight because we're in bloody trenches, so adding a bunch of them in close quarters would make players quite cautious if they wish to challenge them. Exploring the world can be quite fun, but in case you get lost in the trenches, you do have access to a pretty helpful map. One thing I must say when playing Conscript is please use mouse and keyboard. Honestly, this was like the best way to play, and I can't really imagine what it would be like playing on a controller. It's probably alright on a controller, but you know, PC Master Race and all, use a mouse and keyboard. Conscript overall is a cool looking project, and I am personally very excited for it, especially after playing an early demo. Most survival horror games releasing nowadays never have that key element all games in the genre must have, and that is identity. Honestly, when writing this script, I seen about 3 new survival horror game trailers, and they all look and feel the exact same. Mostly Resident Evil copies, mind you. All of them have a mansion, all of them have fixed camera angles, all of them have similar stories about some evil fucking company or some shit like that. Conscript is the type of game I expect in the genre, just bringing the old elements into something new. So yeah, I'm just going to leave that there. That can be his own little video in the future. So yeah, that was Conscript. What do you guys think about it? Do you have a survival horror game you want me to check out? Please leave your thoughts, leave your suggestions down in the comment section below. Special thanks my lovely wee patrons, Kaji, Proxy1, Devil and TG Monster for your continued support over on Patreon. Thank you guys so much, I do really appreciate it. So yeah, Conscript, go play it, it's cool. The guy's still making it. I believe it's only one developer. He has a Discord server, which I'll link down in the description below, just in case you have any further questions you want to ask. And if you want to try and like get an early version of the game, try and help him test it out, try and, you know, squash all those bugs, help him do all that sort of stuff, because it's such a cool looking game, and I'm really excited to play it. It's really promising, I must admit. And I think it's just, for me personally, it is refreshing, you know? Like playing it, I'm like, oh my god, there's so many familiar things, but it's his own thing. And I think that's the theme of this video, is just identity. Like, have your own identity, do something new, play around with new locations, just anything, just make it different, you know? Like, it's fine if your horror game or survival horror game is set in a mansion, that's fine. But find some way to make it different from the other games. But anyway, that's me for today. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and I shall be seeing you all next time. Bye bye.